there.
Hey man, sorry, I'm right here at crunch time. My
I,
kid got into something at the last minute and had to run stuff.
tell you what, due to the forces of time and space between America and Britain, I was thinking anything could happen. I was prepared for that. We've done a presentation on your indie creator self and your indie comic, and I always go on the idea that if somebody takes a turn for the worse or they get ill or they've got real life problems, or not real problems, but real life things to deal with, then I think, I'm prepared to go the full half hour to promote you and your book, even
I
if,
appreciate that.
you're preoccupied.
Yep,
Got to look after those people, even in their absence.
I appreciate that. No, like I got done from some yard work and my kid was somewhere they shouldn't be. And I was like, oh, I was like running, checking my watch, grabbed them, and rushed back in here.
That's the way it goes, man. To mean having had experience of working with thousands of children,
Yep,
that they always find your weak spot. Doesn't matter how you try to fake it, they'll always find your weak spot, and they're a pleasure to work with, but they're challenging. They will challenge you.
oh yeah,
Anyway, we've got a little presentation for you, and we are going to work our way through it. I'll start the timer, and so we can get a nice tight focus on you and your book. We're looking forward to this. This is our debut show, and hopefully the tech gods, which you seem to know a bit about, will not strike us down at the moment of our finest triumph. So here we go. All right, then we need to add this to the stage. So this is my first time multitasking as
all
a
right,
guy. No laughing from the audience, and we've done the trailer, and we've set our time, so we're reasonably organised. We've got our ad card here, the 5 pillars of storytelling. It's Azrael with Godfoe Universe, and we're scheduled for today, 7 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. So I'm your host. This is our introduction. We've got the who, what, why, and the how. So hello there, I guess. Welcome to the 5 Pillars of Storytelling Live, where we talk art, comics, movies, games, and toys from the past, present, and future. And I've got to keep remembering to look into that little green light from time to time to maintain eye contact with our audience. I'm your host, Azrael, and my secret identity is Cal Prometheus. You might have seen our humble X space on X, but on YouTube, I'm Azrael, storyteller, artist, and promoter of indie creators, comics, and community. Our style here is universal. We can be watched by creative adults and their creative younglings, even though it's not targeted specifically at children, because YouTube have their own rules for that. We want edutainment, education, and entertainment to be combined. So our motto is to listen, to learn, and share. Or in finer words and better words, let's do this inspiring quote by a legendary manga creator. Comics are an international language. They can cross boundaries and generations. Comics are a bridge between all cultures. I wonder which manga creator said that. So, guest introduction, Godfoe Universe. We always do a bit of prose for our guests just to get them warmed up and think, did somebody actually research this show, actually find out a bit about us? Don't worry, we haven't had a private detective hunt you down and find out all the dark stuff. We're just focusing on all the positive stuff here.
all
Our
right,
special guest is Godfoe Universe, and we're going to be talking about Apollyon 20XX. Did we say that correctly?
correct. Yep,
Thank you. Profile next, everything related to the Godfoe universe, comics, books, movies, music, podcasts, and more. Quite cosmopolitan, just like the 5 pillars of storytelling. Artist on his project is Joshua Adams, and the writer is Dan Evans. It's got an unusual premise from what I can see, striking art and a dramatic style, black and white. And anybody who's been hanging around the 5 pillars of storytelling knows that we like our noir stuff.
mm-hmm.
We note the commitment to having it all ready to print before crowdfunding, which we approve of. We approve. Winners of the, even though he doesn't know it yet, winner of the fight, it's in the Migonian wave. We've done quite a few awards, so we're doing them in waves. Even though he doesn't know it yet, he can pretend he hasn't heard this. Winner of the 5 Pillars Storytelling Award for that emotive cover. A robust example of following your own creative instincts. Hello, Godfoe Universe.
Oh, hey Kyle, thanks for having me, man. I'm a huge fan of your Twitter page in particular. You do a wonderful job promoting people.
God bless you, sir. Music to our ears. We want the last year and a half, or almost 2 years, heading for now of our journey to be about other people. We believe that out of darkness and can come light. And after the last 3 or so years that we've all been through,
Yep.
I thought, how can I give before I expect anything? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we thought we'd try and earn our place in the indie comics community by being gracious enough to be kind, give, and be generous and gentle with people. I think that's the best way to be on social media. Be gentle and treat other people how you'd like yourself to be treated. So we've got the big 5 questions. Who is the creator of Godfoe Universe?
All right. That would be myself, Dan Evans, and Joshua Adams. We are co-creators and co-owners of Godfoe Universe. Everything that entails the LLC itself and the story itself. I do the writing, he does the art, and we exchange roles sometimes just to get work done. He's a wonderful writer in his own right, and I can't draw to save my life, so there's that.
Well, I'll tell you what, sometimes with comics, in the history of comics, we've seen that there can be some very great teams. You've got people like Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, and you had the famous John Byrne and Chris Claremont run on the X-Men, and obviously things like the Teen Titans were Marv Wolfman and the mighty Sunshine himself, George Perez. I particularly like that one. I've got a few of those pamphlets downstairs, and every time I pick one up, I'm just transported. So you guys are a team, and we like the sound of that. We really do. And this face kind of has you at hello, to quote a famous movie.
Yep.
We like it. It's, when you can say it all with the eyes.
Oh yeah.
This is what we're getting here. This is what we're getting here. Right then. So we've got the creative team outlined. What does he or they, it's a duo, what do you guys create?
Well, we created the Godfoe Universe, which is kind of a very bold and ambitious universe in general. It's multimedia, it's comic books, it's novels, it's video games, it's short films, it's podcasts, and music albums, and more. The general idea behind the Godfoe Universe is that it's a story that takes place over thousands of years, and it begins in Apollyon 20XX, that era where a machine god is made. That's the easiest way to explain it. It takes over Earth, and the rest of the universe takes place, and anyone who defies this god machine is labeled Godfoe. That's why it's called the Godfoe Universe. That is the simplest way to explain it. We worked on this project for about 10 years before we put anything pen to paper, fleshing out the idea. It started out with a band. I was putting out music under the title Blue Bolt with the band, and that story weaves into it as well. We wanted something that we could work on the rest of our lives, and that like 12-year-old us would geek out over completely. And
perfect.
And to go a step forward and to be, we use the term bold a lot, but to be very bold with it, we wanted to make something, especially in each of those areas, like let's say indie comics, that was something unparalleled. So when we release a book, we release the book itself, which they're usually very big. They're over 100 pages, and a lot of peripheral work with them. We do the Lamentations, the Revelations, and other in-world stories that go along with it that you get, and we do short films and all that other kind of stuff. We really wanted to make something that because you appear roughly around our age, like millennial / Gen Xer.
29. I don't look a day over, I tell you.
Yeah. Well,
stop counting then. That's all I remember.
You remember probably a little bit before the internet then. And there was a time, at least in the internet, when there wasn't just basically 4 sites, social media and Amazon. When the internet was kind of like the Wild West, and you could explore things and you could explore ideas and really go down rabbit holes. Now the only place to go down a rabbit hole is Wikipedia, and Wikipedia is all but useless.
Internet 2.0 seems to be handily sewn up with a handful of companies, just like the old media companies.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's
the
nothing
boss.
in
It's
that.
the same as the old boss.
Indeed, working for the man. I'm sure there's a bit of Roy Orbison in that wisdom there.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, well, something cool. Like, and I'm not. I mean, if I'm going too long, cut me off. That's fine. It's just
No, please keep going.
in any kind of in indie comics in particular and music in particular, because we come from a music background. Um, Money is always chased over art. It is time for art to be prioritized over money, and that's the simplest way to put it in our ideas and our aesthetic. We would rather create loads of cool stuff for people and not make money than the inverse. Maybe that's the punk background.
Hey, God save the Queen back in the
Yeah.
day. And I think they got to go on because Queen cancelled. We're Queen fans, but we do have a soft spot for the Sex Pistols. I mean,
Yeah.
right now, when it comes to popular music, I'd certainly take them. You know, that energy and that emotion, you know?
Oh yeah. Well, there's
So,
what is there to be punk against anymore, right? Like,
indeed, what's that saying about if you live long enough, you get to be the villain in your own movie or your own life? Or
yeah.
we have another question, which, well, let's have a little look at this. About the book, then, a
Hmm.
premise. So, kind of building what you said, it's something visual for the audience to hold on to here. We've got this lovely black and white, almost montage symbolic image of what I guessing is the Nemesis, or
That
or a
part
manifested image of the Nemesis. Go
that
on.
is a manifested image of the main character Zero in the back, a bad guy, a nemesis, yeah, over the girl speaking with him. The symbology there is she was from the former Soviet Union before she was frozen and put in a stasis and then released later. And the pyramids and stuff deal with our critique of hierarchy and especially power within the book.
I think you and me are going to get on very well. We find your conceptual id most impressive.
Thank you.
So, a powerful group of elites known as the Order had manipulated world events for centuries. Oh, really? From the shadows. Now, in the near future, this Order has created G.O.D, the God, a machine capable of influencing the minds of the world's population. But Zero, the prime candidate for the God Project, has escaped and rallied with him a small band of young, like minded augments. Together, they seek to end the order before God can be completed and the world brought to its knees. Impressive. About the book, picking up immediately after the events of Volume 1, lest we forget, follows our young augments, bloodied and bruised, as they navigate the dangers of underground tunnels, hostile cities, and a deadly new foe called Switchblade. Now, before we get into the why,
Hmm.
I do remember looking at the crowdfunder before. I've come really close to backing this at least twice. I go in really titanic, long circles. I think, speaking to you now, I relate more and more to the creators, and you get to know them over time. I think that's the thing with indie comics and the books. And you sometimes, oh, what was that cool thing? And then you don't see it in your feed for a little while.
Yeah.
Then you end up following people, and you get to know them. It's so not corporate.
Yeah.
So this was the first one I saw, and I said I came within a whisker of backing this. There's a few others, but this I certainly remember it. I love the cover. So we've got if you need to catch up and find out a bit more about this project, if you're some comic creators, they have to have the first issue before they'll actually read the second one. So what's really nice here is you've got a nice catch up tier on your website. So for those who missed the first book, you can pick it up now as an add-on from our crowdfunding page. Read the book that started it all, available in physical and digital formats. We've put here cool art, and you've just explained it, but it's still cool, man.
Yep.
Yes, we looked at it, I thought it needs its own page.
I appreciate that.
Tell us a little bit more about what's going off in this page. Obviously, you don't have to give the game away, but little clues to kind of tease the audience.
Sure. This is one of the first pages from Volume 1. This is where Zero is breaking out some of the augments from a containment facility. And when we say augment, it's anyone who the Order has experimented on with Imperial metal, which is an alien metal. That's what they're trying to use to make God on Earth, basically. So think of the augments as our version of the mutants, and we often describe this book as Claremont's X-Men meets Akira. And by Claremont's X-Men, we mean it's very character focused, and at the same time with Akira, it is very apocalyptic. It's going to be 4 volumes. The fourth one may split into part 1 and 2, but it's going to be a short run, about probably max out around 600 pages, and the world ends. Now, how it ends matters. It's not that everyone's dead, it's that everything in our universe that we know now, like in our real world, resets and begins the Godfoe universe.
Cool.
Yep. So this is Oksana Vidovic. She is escaping a containment facility. She has an imperial metal heart that kind of basically makes her a super soldier.
I see. So there are sort of faint footsteps of influence from Claremont's X-Men, Akira, killer target audience there. Bang bang, twin pillars. You've got Claremont X-Men, probably the biggest comic in the USA at the time, probably still is now in some ways, and Akira, which once stood big in Japan, yeah, and to have those as your target audience, that's killer. Because sometimes a criticism, indie comics do get, oh man. Sometimes you certainly won't be accused of this, but sometimes criticism of indie comics is that they like focus on the target audience, and then critics obviously think, then why is nobody buying me? Yes, so it's very, very important to have a laser honed beam on your target audience. You certainly have you guys over there.
Well, and people, there's this weird idea, and it all comes from marketing people, which their opinions don't matter in art. But they'll be like, never use the phrase "it's like X plus Y." It's like, are you crazy? That's how every friend I've ever met told me to get into anything that they liked. Hey man, you like X? Well, it's like X, and it's like Y. These two things you like, and now it's Z. Like, I mean, somebody told me this movie's like Predator and The Thing. I'm gonna watch it, you know. Like,
well, that's it. It's a good way of accessing popular culture and using that as a keystone to build your lesser, with all due respect, our lesser known IPs in the indie comics. In order to build, you have to start from somewhere. To actually stand on the shoulders of giants is a good way of reaching further up the ladder on your way to success.
well, people don't like that challenge, quite frankly. I mean, and that's an unbelievable tall order, both of those books, of course, but it's just to describe an aesthetic and an idea. It doesn't mean, because I've seen people argue, like, we got a friend on Twitter named B.A. Turner, and he said his book, is kind of like The Dark Knight Returns. And people were like, oh, do you think you're Frank Miller? It's like, no, I'm saying that it has a certain style or a certain aesthetic or a certain soul that is similar to The Dark Knight Returns.
That flavor stuff. You like
man.
coffee? You like chocolate? Have you tried our mocha? Would you like small, medium, or large? And I had one yesterday, actually, while I was awaiting my car being fixed. So I had the chance to go to a library, and out of 16 shelves, I picked out Carmine Infantino's Spider-Woman debut in her own series. And right to the point where she accidentally got unmasked by that guy who was trying to stop her.
Yeah,
she ended up going out with him, but we'll not go down that road.
Are you in the UK? I don't want to dox you, but
yes, I'm in the UK. We've just we're in the dark, and we're in teal lighting. One lady said that teal was a good color to have on YouTube. Maybe it's our complexion hides our makeup cracking.
I'm glad you're able to get your car fixed. I'm so glad cars are legal in the UK. So enjoy it for now.
We don't talk about politics, sex, or religion on this show, but I think everybody in America will probably have been wondering what's happening there. So we won't be posting any memes because we don't want to be in jail for 7 to 10 years, and we don't look at anything that's from a certain flavor of anything that we can't discuss, just in case we get locked up for another 15 years. Anyway, moving swiftly on, I'll set it a bit out later. We've got this lovely image here
Thank you.
of a dark force. Full enough, how's that for Sedgway? Maybe this dark force is running our country. Kyle, let it go, man. Move on.
This is a character named Cerber. He is he's a very strange figure. He's one of the earlier augments from the Soviet Union. He actually trained Ox, the last character we saw, when she was much younger, before she was put in stasis. He has an augmentation where he is able to devour imperial metal from other augments. So he has basically like imperial metal teeth, and that's how it started. But the more he ingests, the more his body becomes imperial metal, and the more augmented he becomes.
Uh-huh.
He's an interesting character because he's trying to track down Zero to consume him. He wants to eat Zero in his imperial metal skull and mind to try to ascend godhood himself. He kind of has some inside baseball in the order that no one else knows. He and his unit, the Cerber unit, will be the main villains of Volume 3, but he does a lot of good work in Volume 2.
Okay, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and I think we can go on to this next one here. A little cryptic clue about this page, please.
This won't ruin it for anyone. This is Switchblade impersonating a member of the party of the augments in order to sneak her way through. So Switchblade is kind of like think of her as the T-1000. She has imperial metal skin. She can appear as anyone, and she also can wield her skin as various blades and tools and any other kind, basically any kind of jagged object she can think of.
To which we say, I say. That is, whoever's on the receiving end of that, it's going to hurt in the morning, son.
Yeah, it's she does some pretty bad damage to some of our heroes that they will not recover from.
Indeed, that's the kind of teasing curiosity that makes us think maybe we need to back this and actually, find out how that actually works. Being an artist ourselves, the visuals for us are very important, and you've got your own style in this. It's unique, it's striking, and we like mystery, we like intrigue, and we like epic. And we think you're tapping the pillars of all three of those.
Thank you. I think Josh Adams is one of the more underrated artists in this scene, and he does everything himself. He does the covers. We have some books that have color. He does that. He does, if you name it, art for the Godfoe Universe. He does it across the board.
God bless him.
Yeah.
Right then, show the Apollyon 20XX trailer. Now, on this bit, I know why the advice is to have a second monitor.
Mm-hmm.
But, so we're going to have to do a bit of jumping around here. But we think it's on. So let's do it. So we need to add to the stage. And now we need to press play on the other tab, Trade Secrets. Oh, yes. That's the way we like it.
Thank you. I made the music myself.
Well, I'm surprised we didn't get caught guitaring, considering what you revealed about yourself earlier. Just a little something that one or two ex-followers of our humble storytelling space might not know about our good selves is that I used to be in a Hawkwind tribute band.
Really? Nice.
Yeah. couldn't read music. Couldn't play. I could play a bit, but not to the standard I wanted,
Yeah.
But had a lot of fun doing lots of loud stuff in a progressive way. And I have to say, making that guitar squeal and trying to play in the dark was also quite interesting. You think, I miss my strings. How do you play in the dark when you can't see your strings? There's probably tricks of a trade on that. Anyway, moving swiftly on, we'll have to see if we can. Did you use any of your music for that trailer?
Oh yeah, that's a song called Hellhounds from my band Pentecost. I put out an album last year called Witching Hour. I'll throw a link in the private chat for you if you want to check out that album.
Cool. That is something we will do. We will update the links and we'll put links on our X space. Because if anybody thinks that's cool music and would like to buy that as a soundtrack for the comic, then what we like here, as we have the 5 pillars of storytelling, is the cross-pollination of a story. It's almost morphogenic. It can be a comic.
Good word.
It can be art. It can goes into the comic, then you can have a movie about it or a TV show, and then you can have games, a computer game, so it becomes interactive, and then it can be a toy where it has the ultimate interactivity. It's the imagination, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And music as well is almost an underlying pretext for all that. You can. I've got a question for you that isn't part of the scheduled questions. If you know, when you're creating the Godfoe universe with your artist, or you as a writer, Dan, do you have a band in your head playing? I think that's if I could sort my business plan as a rock band, this is who I am.
Yeah. You mean like an actual, like a soundtrack in my head, like to what I like, or thinking of us as?
Okay, I'll give you a heads up. Just a little clue. I watched some How to Advice from the creator of Lady Death, and he said one of the things we do. They've got the whole heavy metal thing going, haven't they? Yeah.
Yeah.
And Lady Death is a lady with a sword, so obviously we keep a respectful distance. Remember to say please and thank you, but just put the stick on the ground and run if things get a bit hot. And one thing he did say, is it Brian Toledo? What's his name? He said, this is the band we are in our head. This is the band I've got in mind. And we try and manifest that through our marketing, our energy. So it's almost taking inspiration from music, just like you as a writer would, just as your artist would.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can definitely answer that question. Yeah, Rush. 100%. Yeah, Rush is my favorite band of all time. If I could be anything ever, like that's what we want. We want that grand ambition. Hopefully, the technical skill as well. But the way Gene Simmons described Rush from like the Gene Simmons from Kiss, like he said they're fearless. He said that's what makes Rush is that they're fearless. And good or bad, however you want to take it, especially their 80s albums and 90s albums, whether you like them or not, they're fearless. And I don't believe you can make art without being fearless, or at least being courageous, because those are two different things. But I think especially the past couple of years, fear has kept art from moving forward. And I think it's time to fear and money. So I think if we sacrifice both of those two, maybe we can make some good art. So definitely Rush.
Was it the classic Spirit of Radio that I like?
Probably.
I think that's my favorite one. I love the guitar that opens up the song. And yes, and the almost hysterical herniated vocals. We just think they're fantastic. You know what I mean? We love that intro. It's if I could play a bit of guitar like that, I'd be a very happy camper.
Well, speaking of that, that song has probably one of my favorite verses of all time. In the second verse, where he says, one likes to believe in the freedom of music, but glittering prizes and endless compromises shatter the illusion of integrity. Like that sums up punk rock more than punk rock ever did.
You should be the president of the wild frontier of indie comics. You seem to have the existential finger on the pulse of all the battles we have to face in indie comics. Courage, integrity, existential ambition, and trying to get that through your product, the heart and the technical side of things, and obviously trying to market that, and obviously if you're not Spider-Man after 70 years, that's already moved or Superman, you basically, that boulder's already Sisyphean like been moved up the hill and down the hill and up the hill to climb bigger mountains. The indie creator, with all due respect, it's going to be hard to cram those 50, 40, 30, 70 years of IP marination, almost like distilled whiskey. To be fair to corporate comics and all the history of American comics and Japanese comics, they've gone through the footsteps in the sand. And I think in indie comics, if we ever feel too sorry for ourselves, we must remember that if we're truly passionate and love what we're doing, then the pain, what of it?
Well, that's the thing is, there's been a lot of commentary. There's always a lot of commentary. I think that's the problem. There's a lot of commentary and not a lot of
action.
A lot of action. But you've made several references to the Western canon just in the 30 minutes we've been talking, and I think that's been the greater revelation behind the failure of comics and failure of media in general. Is the commentary is usually like, oh, people don't know comics, or people don't know X, whatever. It's like, no, comic creators were only good because they knew things older than them.
Yeah.
The guys writing them now, it's not that some of these guys have read more comics than I have, and they're terrible writers. They don't know who Odysseus is. They don't know who Sisyphus is. They don't know the Bible. Whether you're a Christian or not, that's a pinnacle of Western civilization. You have to know those stories.
Oh
And
yeah.
if and like people don't know Dostoevsky, who's not Western, but you know what I mean. Like there is a. I'm going back through Beowulf right now, and it's the. I mean, you reread it again, you're like, oh, this is still like the best story I've ever read. Like,
Classics, legends, heritage, legacy. It's like feeling the force flowing through you. Connect
exactly.
with it. What's gone before, and you realize it's all one if you tune into it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beauty of indie comics. Nothing can stop you from channeling and harnessing what's gone before. Take anything before 1930, copyright free, and be inspired by it. You know what I mean? Go to the true Western civilization classics, and there you will find yourself.
Oh yeah, I think that's the. I forget who said it, but he said if you want to learn new ideas, look at old books. I don't know if that was Chesterton or who that was, but I think there's guys like John's Longbox who can have you can have a wonderful discussion with him about that kind of stuff. I know.
A true warrior, John's Longbox.
Oh yeah, I
We
love
like
John.
his all heart. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
I know it's on his show. You can have those discussions,
Hmm.
and you guys really get into it on his show. Where he's what we like about him is just himself. He's authentic.
Oh yeah, wonderful guy, and just salt of the earth. That I
Salt
think
for the earth,
that's the
absolutely.
best way to describe him. And that we're for you and I from two different nations, from two different ideologies in some ways. But we share that same idea, the same. You know what salt of the earth means, and that's the idea of Western civilization. And there is a transcendence there in stories and in culture that unfortunately I think that's what's being lost. Whether whatever side of people want to talk about a culture war or politics or whatever, it's like no, like that stuff is lesser to the basically the history of man that's being lost.
Just we've paused the clock on in the Dark Nexus here. The time
Hmm.
manipulation is key, and we've paused the. I'm really enjoying this conversation. So we've paused the clock. It stands at 12 seconds left. Of little consequence to me, and we feel free to go further, seeing as we're getting into it. And
I'm sorry to derail you.
no, I'd say indie comics all about not being on the rails. And do you know what? That's it. We both know what freedom is, and if you're being deprived of it, or if people are trying to. And that's the beauty about indie comics. It's not corporate. There's freedom to be yourself without sounding. I'm going to touch on this very delicately. The people who created a lot of the classic indie comics, sorry, DC and Marvel comics, corporate comics, whatever you want to call them, before Crisis did the Dallas thing, Bobby in the shower, and erased everything and said it doesn't exist. What all those writers and artists and sci-fi, fantasy, superhero civilizations, all that hard work, all 45 years of it was it at the time,
Hmm.
just erased in the early to mid 80s. And you think, so the next time I read Batman, and I did read post-crisis comics, Batman's acting like he's never met Superman. Superman's acting like he never met Batman. And they had this short-term burst in sales, of which I guiltily hold my hands up, get my hand in the camera there, guiltily contributed to. And after a while, it felt hollow.
Hmm.
I'm thinking, we've lost everything. That richness. Even if things change going forwards, there's that evolution, a building on the forefathers, and that you actually had a reason to collect those comics. It was, to me, they're expensive now as artifacts of rareness, but before you wanted to have them, regardless of whether they're expensive or not, because they were milestones. One keystone, a set of other keystones, in a milestone of continuity, history, in a word.
Oh yeah, and well, that's the thing is I think the Khmer Rouge did Year Zero by physically obliterating their culture. I think we in the West have done Year Zero by commodifying our culture.
Yeah.
and selling it over and over and over again. And the same way that empires kind of now rise and fall quicker and quicker and quicker, they can't last to the Roman Empire anymore. Like our stories do that. Like DC, Marvel are always resetting everything. They don't have the patience to build. They don't, and that's what's so strange. That's the weird contradiction in all of this. Is the bigger these companies got, it's like the less time they had, and the less purpose they had, and the less everything. It's how do you? Speaking as an American, it's like we bail out our corporations every year somehow. It's like, how do you have this much money and you're poor? Like, like
Yes. Speaking of why, those subtexts, I think, drive our creativity.
mm-hmm.
Right then, let's have a little look at this. I think this is very important. We'll have a little look at this. I think we've alluded to it a lot and you've kind of talked around it. So then, why do you create, you and your artist, why do you create indie comics? Why indie comics?
Okay. I'll start from the foundational primal and then work up to the direct question. I create because if I don't, my brain won't shut off. I can't sleep. If I wasn't making comics,
You've
I'd
got
be
an
making.
overactive mind like me. That's why I can't get
Oh
to
yeah,
sleep. Well,
exactly. And
we're listening.
it's like, well, I've always made things with my hand or with my mind. I can't, like I said, I can't draw, but I would make montages with CD or like inserts like posters and stuff. I'd cut them up and make really cool things out of them. I make music, of course. Indie comics started because I met Josh, and he could draw, and I couldn't draw. And we both like comics. Okay, like I wanted to be a comic artist as a kid. I gave it about 2 months practice. Realized I can't. Like if I spent 30 years studying this day and night, I could be good, but I would not be talented. And that's the difference, especially when you grew up near the '90s when you saw guys like Todd McFarlane exist. And you're like, I'm not gonna. That's not gonna happen. Now musically, yep, music I stuck with immediately because I knew how to do it. I knew I had a talent for it. It's like, okay, I can do this. But what started this is I've written a novel. It took about 8 years, and it is the end of the Godfoe universe. It will come out maybe this year, maybe next year, but that's our era, the Black Star era. And so that kicked off the Godfoe universe really. And then Josh and I decided we would do comics. We talked about it, and we talked about it and talked about it. And then 2020 happened. The virus we can't name on YouTube happened, and
Indeed.
my wife lost 5 family members, 3 cousins, her father, her grandmother. I think she only lost one to COVID and several to drugs and other things. And I lost my brother to suicide during that year, and then I lost my dad a few years later to early onset dementia. So during that time, as you alluded to, the like kind of recent dark years, 2020 happened. It's basically as soon as my brother passed, I was like, all right, Josh, we're buckling down, we're releasing things. So from 2020 to now, we really dedicated, sat down, and said we're both about to be 40 in a few years. We're not satisfied with what we're doing in life. This is what we're going to do. So I had the novel. We had the lore built up for about 10 years of, talking about it, shooting it back and forth, not taking it seriously. And we sat down and we did Biophile Kolga and we did Apollyon and we released 3 comics last year. Josh did about 400 pages last year.
Some of the covers on that comic
Biophile Kolga.
Biofile, the one with the face,
Mm-hmm.
we would often use that in the promo because we like that one. That was our favorite one of that. Great job.
Thank you. The universe catch up tier on our Indiegogo includes that. So that would be Apollyon 1, Apollyon 2, Biophile Kolga 1, and the Apollyon 20XX Ashcan. So we had written a lot of that stuff and released it. I'm going to answer your original question. We chose indie comics because we looked at it. We both wanted to make comics, and then we looked at it for about a year. We studied it, and we had that same itch we had for music, where it's like, okay, well, where's like the super cool stuff? Like some of the stuff's cool, I like it, but where we wanted to be we wanted to be the Rush of indie comics. Drop giant concept albums for years.
You're answering my question from earlier again. Very clever. Awful. We like that.
So that's why I make indie comics.
I think it's forged in emotion. All is emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Our experiences. Yeah. all that suffering that you've talked about is personal to you.
Yeah.
And indie comics gives us a chance not to have the snake eating the snake once more for the ninth time, or to erase the universe and create another set of amnesia universes. Yeah, it can have cool writing and it can have cool art. But the people who did that writing in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, they either fought in the war or knew people that did. And you know what? Despite all the darkness, there's humanity in the writing. It comes through in the products, the comics, DC and Marvel comics of the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and even the 70s to a degree. Even if they weren't direct, they had parents that were. And I'm not saying obviously that you have to fight in a war to obviously, write a decent comic, you know what I mean? But if we can put our own personal journey, and that comes with shades of black, grey, and white, like your comic, and if you can put yourself into your art, it always shows. It communicates through the great ether from you to me to the people who've already backed your comic. The fact that you can work with another artist on the same mission, you get the feeling that on a higher level we're all connected is in some way, and just to find people who can relate to you through the bridge of your work, it's creators, readers, and there's little noise in the middle, in terms of traditional retail. Now with the Star Trek technology like this, obviously you've heard about the Diamond Comics distribution. They used to take a big chunk, but now's the chance for a lot of indie creators to go direct to their readers. I think, that pie chart, if retail takes half and distribution take another 25%, then you've got printed bill of 10%. Before you know it, you're looking at 85% of potential revenue has gone. Yeah. And then you're trying to pay your tax bill, your lighting, your heating, your food, your groceries, your petrol, your car getting fixed, you know what I mean? Or buying a new car. What, out of 15%? Is that what corporations want me to work for? So we have the chance with all I shall say, the tectonic plates of comics moving is an opportunity for us indie comic creators to seek out a wild frontier of new opportunities. Every person in the indie comics community can create their own business plan and come up with their own unique solutions to distribution. I mean, I know that whether people like him or not, he's been a great disruptor in indie comics, and he's made millions doing the Rippaverse. Out July set up his own distribution company because he was fed up of somebody else taking 25% plus and retail taking what they were taking. Now, don't get me wrong, I used to go to comic shops in my youth, love them. And just a quick shout out to Page 45 in Nottingham, probably the best comic shop in the world. They've been doing indies for decades.
Nice.
With all indies at the front, cosmopolitan world comics, Japan, French, European, Italian, people of all different unique characters, because we're all diverse. There's 8 billion diverse people on the planet. Who'd have thunk? Who'd have knew, huh? And they've been pioneering this for decades. I thought that's the business model of retail if you want to get into it. And all the superhero stuff, yeah, you can still buy superhero stuff, but it's at the back of the shop. Not in a disrespectful way, but it's almost to be like a Waterstones or a modern bookshop in the approach. A more, I hesitate to use the word grown up, but a very professional, outward facing to the whole community kind of appearance. Yeah. Does that make sense, Dan?
It does, and I love that idea. I mean, I the stuff I gravitated to. Of course, he had Spider-Man, X-Men, that kind of stuff. But what really made me a comics fan, like a fan on my own, not just buying my brother's comics anymore, was stuff like Grendel and Cerebus, and of course, some of those great French like heavy metal and all that kind of stuff. And I got into Sandman earlier, Neil Gaiman. I guess we can still talk about Neil Gaiman. I don't care, but
Matt on Grendel, Matt Wagner, is it?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I keep saying Wagner, but I think he says Wagner or Wagner.
I'm sure he'll take Wagner if it comes with a sale. And Dave Sim obviously did that epoch run of 1 to 300, and we were just praying he stayed alive until it got to the end. It's funny enough, I met Dave Sim and Gerhard at the Starkist Hotel. Yeah. I wouldn't mess with him in a verbal fight, but he's as sharp as a tack and as dry as the sun. And he was very kind. Starkest Hotel in Nottingham. Close my eyes. It's the mid-90s, and it was actually sponsored by Page 45 in Nottingham, the comic shop. That shows you how progressive they were. Even back then, they were in the mid-90s. They were put. It might have been 96, 97. They were pioneering ways to shine a light on indie comics. Yeah. So there was Dave Simon Gerhard there for Cerberus before it finished. You know what I mean? And I think I got Church and State there.
Oh, nice! I've got that one over here. Yeah.
Cool. And I've got it actually signed. And he. I don't know why I started talking about fridges. He made a joke about a fridge at the United Kingdom Comic Art Convention, so I thought I'd be a bit clever, you know. And he probably thought, got a wise guy here, huh? So anyway, he's very kind and gentle with me, but he drew me a picture of Cerberus with a sword, and he's saying to my wife at the time, so and so, get him the hell out of here. And I thought the way he got to the next customer in situ, he'd obviously dealt with my type before. So no, but I have fond memories of that. I've still got the picture at the front of Church and State, and I've got about 3 or 4 volumes of that. I really should track down the other telephone directories. I mean, I think we'd all love to be at that place where we've got about 10 telephone directories of our lifetime's work.
Oh yeah, I mean, here's Reed's right here.
Oh, excellent. There you go. Absolutely. Another person we met there actually was Gary Spencer Millage of Strangehaven, another little known comic, but is just now on the final stretch after what seems like almost 3 decades, finishing his opus. And we occasionally feature that on our X page. So we know a little bit more about why you create indie comics, and we are sorry for your struggles, particularly the ones which involve loss. That kind of darkness, it's speaking about our own personal experience, it can sometimes feel like a barren wasteland. And the one thing we can do in the immortal words of Guiding Lights is to go forwards.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the thing is, I don't want to derail anymore, but that's another thing Josh and I really thought about with comics, is everything you just said, everything. We saw the trajectory of comics, particularly indie comics, you know, and there was the image revolution, of course. Yes. But it seemed like in the 90s, at least in America, things just kind of crashed. Things reset once again, and that we don't try to cause drama or call it names, but that was our frustration with the mainstream and indie comics. It's like a lot of it looks like it's picked up from Image, or maybe attempted Bronze Age kind of stuff. And it's like, well, comics can go forward still. Like there was a cool track. You know, we had the Max with Sam Keith and like everything, Cerebus, as you said, and ElfQuest and that kind of stuff. It's like there's a long history here of people pushing boundaries beyond.
Flaming Carrot, Concrete, Strangehaven by Gary Spencer Millage.
Strangehaven, yeah.
Out there. But whether they get the spotlight and the publicity of those iconic cultural things is another matter.
Yeah, there's just a history there. It's kind of like in the 90s as well. You know, we had grunge hit, and then suddenly pop took over, boy bands. It's like a parallel there. It's like we were on the cusp of doing something cool, guys. Like it could have kept going. We could have experimented more, and you know, then we got Britney Spears.
Speaking of that, I forgot my segue from earlier. I thought, he's got a character called Switchblade. I've got to give him a bit of pop. They're almost one-hit wonders, but there's a little duet, Scottish duet, bless them, from the 80s.
Bless them.
And they're called, no, they are.
Still cheeky,
man. They're called Strawberry Switchblade. And back in the mid-80s, I couldn't get the song out of my head. It's called Since Yesterday, and it's by Strawberry Switchblade.
I'm going to look that up.
Duet. So you ever get the chance to have a little look at those guys, I'll have to link you a DM in X and say, is just play it once, and you might find you can never get it out. Yeah, you might have to actually play some Sex Pistols to cleanse your mind afterwards. But it's very sweet.
I think they were Scottish. I think the last Scottish group I got into was Cocteau Twins.
Got you.
Yeah, I don't know if they were actually Scottish or if she just put Gaelic in her language in her lyrics sometimes.
The Gaelic. Scotland. Where else? Yeah, my heart certainly belongs to Scotland. Right, question number 4 of the big
All right.
5. What advice would you give aspiring creators? Because one of the underlying mandates of this show is that you could watch the show with your younger a creative in your family, and you could almost share that creative journey together. You're at where you're at, they're where they're at, and then just like John Romita Jr. So his dad, John Romita, at the drawing board, and his dad had pulled an all-nighter trying to meet the deadline, and he'd come in and actually rub his dad's neck, because he'd have stiffness from working at the drawing board all night. That kind of a cold baked feeling you have in your body when you think, oh man, just take me out overnight. I just need to go to bed. That ashen sense of, I feel like I need a bath. I don't know what I need, but I need something to make me feel human again.
Yeah.
And his son would come in and comfort him and look at all the cool art his dad was drawing. Obviously, classic runs of Peter, Gwen, Mary Jane, iconically looking as they looked, and he'd be exposed to that. But that touch of creativity was passed on to him. He gets to see his dad's Spider-Man drawing in a New York kind of parade. So there is that sense of passing on the creative beacon on as we learn on our journey. We can pass it on to the younger generation, and there is that thing of a lot of people complain that there are no all ages books, and there's almost this disconnect now, without getting into the politics of it, because we know what they are. The arguments are well rehearsed and rinsed to death. That, hang on a minute, we're targeting this specific set of fill in blank at a specific set of fill in blank adult audience. But what about kids? What about teenagers? What about those universal stories that could be appreciated? When I was young, I could appreciate a Spider-Man comic or a Disney movie at my level, but an adult could still get it. There's almost like a wink wink from the writer and artist, so the adults could enjoy it at their level. When the comic audience grew up with comics, but then what happened after is they seem to abandon where they came from, and then you have this Dallas mentality of, right, I'm in the shower. What happened? I didn't get a job in Hollywood. That's what happened, folks. So I had to go back. I'll let it go, man. Crisis happens. You're not getting your Earth 2. Anyway, so what advice would you give, getting back on track, to aspiring creators, Dan?
Read more. I don't care if it's an artist or a writer, particularly writers, though, and especially since so many artists are trying to write, and unfortunately 90% of the time fail, and I can say that because I'm a writer who can't draw. Like, I get the disconnect. Read much more, and this is a subject very close to my heart. Now, Apollyon is not 100% all ages by any means, neither is Kolga. We are going into that direction as we make more stuff. Here's the thing. If it's good for kids, it's good for adults. That was the basis of stories for a long time, starting with fables and religious texts and morality stories. They were made to turn children into adults the proper way, to usher them into the world. What happened is, somehow we stopped caring about kids and their development, and now we have generations of adults who want to be children. And when that happens, the boundaries are off, and that's where you get mass, like the postmodern sense. Basically, there are no barriers anymore. There's nothing that matters, and that's like that. We've seen that happen to our own comics and the big two, of course, and that's been talked about to death by YouTubers. So I'm not going to go into it. But
diplomatically done, Dan, with suitable eloquence, we can infer and we can hear you. It is deafening and ringing in our ears.
Well, the thing is, if you Aesop's fables, if you don't know these kind of things, if you haven't read them, or let's say Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, of course, King Arthur, even Shakespeare to an extent, not all of it, but Shakespeare can be read as young as like 8 or 9, and you can appreciate it. Chronicles of Narnia, Lord of the Rings.
Oh, Narnia.
Yeah, and those are newer. I say newer, like the past 100 years is very new for stories, We don't think about that, particularly in America. We don't think that's new. But no, this subject is very close to my heart. I would say read more, and read things that were written for children back when children had more responsibility and hope than they do now.
Amen. Reader, writer, historian. Now that's the Trinity, Dan.
Yeah.
Okay, Dan. The last of the big five. What superhero would you be?
Wish I was or would be.
We'll take it as it comes. But
um,
extra milk in our coffee, if you don't mind, and a well stirred one sugar.
I'm not extroverted enough to be Superman. Um, I'll go with Spider-Man. He gets to keep the mask and go home to his wife.
Perfect answer. I tell you what, we like that sublime eloquence. Bonus questions. Here we go. Now we're going to speed up the pace a bit. We've already talked about the creative team. Oh, go on. Give it as in a kind of in a potted meat jar. Tell us about you two. Is it chemistry? Was it just you knew you both had it in common? Was it just when you just meet somebody, it's a man or a woman, particularly when it's in business, you've got to be creative. You look at Joe Simon, Jack Kirby, Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, Claremont and Burns. Sometimes you just know when a creative. Oh, wash my mouth out. Let's go for indie comics kind of partnership. I mean, you look at Gary Spencer Millage and Gary Spencer Millage. He's got both in one. And then you've got obviously Gerhard and Dave Sim. What was it about you and your artist? You know what I mean? What was it?
Josh is, well, first of all, his personality is great. We are very much different. He's a bit larger than I am. I'm 6'1". Josh is a little bit taller than me. He's like 6'2", 6'3", and he's actually big. He actually has muscle, unlike me. And he's a bit more extroverted. He was a teacher. He was a pastor. He's much better at speaking. I'm a little bit more introverted than he is.
I think you're doing a good job so far, Dan. I'm not convinced by that. You're speaking very well.
Thank you. Well, and we approach art completely differently. We both like a lot of the same things, but we like them for different reasons. We're both huge fans of Neon Genesis Evangelion. That's my favorite piece of art ever made. Anime, manga, movies, all of it. But like I said, he's very well read, and what we noticed was that we complement each other from the start. We like the same kind of music, same kind of movies, same kind of humor, but we approach all of those things from different ways. And we realized that very early. It's like, okay, we complete each other in an artistic sense, and we see what the other one is missing. And the thing is, Josh is such an incredible artist that I don't even have to put notes I just write the script. I just write dialogue and monologue, and he does everything else. I might say, hey, I want to see this symbol here, or maybe this action here. But if you could see our notes, it's literally just like a movie script or something. It's just lines of dialogue. He does everything else. I can't imagine. Thank God I don't have to imagine being less lucky than that. I don't know how other writers and artists work together. I can't imagine, especially in a corporate sense. Writing comics now makes me. I see why comics are bad now in a lot of ways, because I'm like, man, I'll bet it's hell trying to work with people whose faces you never see, whose voices you never heard, and you just write notes and that's a whole
earlier
other thing.
teams had that, didn't they?
They did. They worked in the same office together.
In a kind of bullpen environment before. Obviously, in the later stages of Stan Jack's career, where he was in Los Angeles and probably Stan was in New York still doing editing and that, and they probably drifted a bit. But when you're in the same time and space, and you can have a chat and you meet up for a coffee and have business lunches, all of that.
Yeah.
Or even better, if you're friends and you've got just that special creative working relationship, you can't beat it. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like that Greek brotherhood.
Exactly.
And
that's how we work.
Spartan sense of we're going into the war of creativity.
Well, that's the thing is, we also run very lean because neither of us pay the other one. I don't have to pay an artist, so we can set goals that are just for getting the book done, just for getting it out. Because if you get your art made, no one can take your art from you once it's made. Now, if I had to pay 4 guys, I'd have to get 10 grand on an Indiegogo or something instead of just 1,500 just to get it printed. But we all each also respect each other so well that we gave each other vetoing power. I get vetoing power over the
That's
story.
cool. Tell us more.
Well, I get vetoing power over the story. He gets vetoing power over the art.
Of
And
course.
we've maybe once or twice had to assert that because we respect each other. He respects my eye for design. I respect his eye for story. But when it comes down to a conflict, and no one raises their voices, we're both in the American South, which means there's a lot of food and there's a lot of guns. So like, so
We don't want
everybody's
it going down that direction. Concentrate on the food,
everybody's
not so much the gun route to solve the argument. But you've got that foundational
everybody's
respect, which I'm hearing. I like that.
everybody's
I'm
lazy,
sorry, I
but
completely disagree with you.
everybody's lazy until a point, and then it escalates.
Yeah, we'd focus more on the pancakes and thinking, listen, we can share
Yeah.
some pancakes. We can sort this out without the other thing, the other thing.
Well, we have different biscuits than y'all do. They're much bigger, butterier, and more diabetic.
Oh, I tell you what, I can hear the soul yearning for what you've just described. What did I get last night for a special treat? Malted biscuits with little mini slabs of butter on. Yep. I mean, honestly, a church mouse would have viewed it as a feast, but yeah, I've got my little treat, you know what I mean? And I've got a little bit of freedom as well. But come on, Kyle, behave yourself. They've got us exactly where they want us, man. Anyway, I'll move swiftly on.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. I don't have to pay a license fee for anything, so.
Yes, we have a rant. You can see it in our head. It's just locked and loaded, ready to go. But we're going to really behave ourselves.
I'll let it go.
Let it go, man. What got you into comics? We've probably already discussed this to a degree, but give it in a kind of bite-sized chunk.
I had two older brothers. They were 5 and 7 years older than me, and growing up, particularly in the Image Revolution, comics were in the culture. They were in our house. My dad had some left over. He had some Black Panthers from back in the day, Captain America. I even had like a Rocket Raccoon from like whenever he came out. It was like the 70s when they first made him.
I remember when he was in the Hulk. I'm thinking, what's going on here? And I'm thinking, talking Crypto Dog, helping Superman in the trailer.
Yeah,
it's so sweet. We've had Bronze Age Superman, we've had Golden Age Superman with the Fletcher cartoons, and now we get to have a Silver Age one where we probably might get Red Kryptonite and Crypto. Same now. I thought it was the sweetest thing. It almost melted my black heart.
Now, we could go on a 4-hour argument here, but I'm a Snyderverse guy.
So are we. Apart from the Flash, the casting, the Wonder Woman casting, we can't help it. We're Linda Carter, but we thought Gal Gadot did a great job as a Wonder Woman. That first movie, the second movie, I don't know what happened, but the first movie, it was a worthy attempt. We'd still had it set in World War II as opposed to one, but they were trying to differentiate themselves from their competition, weren't they? But worthy attempts. What we do like about Snyder is the hyperkinetic exhilaration and consequential power of what superheroes do. When they act, there is consequence, and they have their own bullet time. I mean, it's not Matrix in Matrix. There's something very bullet time in the real world about what Snyder does, and that part of the styling, to me, it does have substance to what superheroes are. They are very consequential beings, and so he absolutely nailed that. I think between being beholden to arcane messages and studio pressures, it perhaps the Snyderverse got cut short, unfortunately. And obviously tragic personal circumstances in his own life. However, there are glimmers in that darkness of how superheroes could be. I mean, and Henry Cavill and the solo Batman movie were terribly own goals and massive missed opportunities, no doubt about it. We could just do it on the Snyder as well, because I'm quite the fan, although I do recognize some of the flaws in it. Perhaps due with maybe external factors on him, actually, his Watchmen movie. The first 5 minutes with Dylan, for us, is probably the best superhero comic as a movie ever.
Oh yeah, that 300.
Counting Sin City.
Yeah, he did 300 as well. And I mean, that's a gore fest, but it's awesome.
So we are in our dark cerebral cortex. We're building a bridge that I think we are very similar mind. But we've yet to see this new pretender at the movies yet.
Yeah.
We shall see. We shall see. Oh, if anybody out there in the comments or chat can tell me why everything in adverts is teal. Hey, my studio light is teal, so that's part of the conspiracy. Is everything is teal and amber? Do let me know, because I'm curious. They all seem to be using that LUT filter. I just want to know why they're all using it. Maybe it's the fashion, although I suspect it's not. Anyway, let's move swiftly on, because everybody loves a good conspiracy, especially myself. Number 8. What do you like about indie comics? Why not trying to go and work for the man, Marvel or DC, and become part of the board? I mean, the corporate structure.
I've worked in corporate structure. Like that alone will keep you out of Marvel and DC. Just and not that everybody's crapped on Marvel and DC for years, and rightly so. But that's the thing. When I walk into a comic book store and I don't see anything I want to buy, like that's a problem, The main thing we've liked about indie comics
And you
so
can't
far,
get it on the newsstand either, can you?
exactly. And there's
Where's the discoverability?
the main thing that I've enjoyed about indie comics is the people we've met, and that sounds a strange answer because of all the drama involved, but we've met people that are the absolute best. I've met Doug Ernst from Iconic Comics, who does Soul Finder. Wonderful guy. We've had him on the show a few times. Brilliant guy. Great, great help. Great inspiration. We've met some guys like B.A. Turner, who did his books. He hasn't put out comics yet, but he did his novels, and just a wonderful guy. And there's so many people from some different walks of life, like John's Longbox again, and Vaughn Coleman, guys like that you meet that are
a young star, Master Coleman.
Yeah, very unbelievably charismatic for his age, isn't he?
He is, and yeah, the weight of history on his shoulders, and it speaks through his comic. We do like what he's doing, a very authentic voice.
Yeah, that's a kid that you can tell has read a lot of comics, especially when I was reading his. I was like, this feels like it would have come out in the '80s, and now I meant that as a compliment.
Yeah, he's a big fan of X-Men, isn't he? And obviously, we backed his, and we got it through the nexus between America and Britain. It's the shipping. Otherwise, we'd back more. Backed plenty digitally, but actually a physical one. You're looking the shipping often outstrips the price of the comic, sometimes by a factor of 2 or 3 times. It's
we had
not what's happening with shipping at all.
We had a fella reach out. He's another indie comics creator from Australia, and he was going to back I was like, man, I don't know if you want to, man. It's like, I think it's gonna be like $120 just to ship it to you. And like, I would love to get, I would love to sell any book, but I mean, I don't want to charge somebody that, but I have to. I can't pay that.
Well, no, it's a path to bankruptcy, both, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, maybe we'll see things change in terms of shipping and in terms of getting. It's certainly something for indie comics and the creators to get creative about. Distribution, shipping. These are all questions that we all seek answers to.
Well, once America buys the UK, right? Y'all are next on the list.
Yeah. Right then, we have another one. What have we got here for you? What's your plans for the future of Godfoe Universe? Apollyon 20.
All right. I'll start with the immediate. This year, Kolga 2 is coming out, and Apollyon 3 is coming out this year. The novel from the Black Star era, the very end of our book, might be coming out. We've got to see we got to fill it out because we've never released a novel before. I'm working on the Biofile Kolga video game. It is 75% done. I've been working on it for a few years. We've got the Blitz Beast, which is a spin-off character from Apollyon 20XX. He first appearance here in Volume 2. He is kind of a legacy character. His father wore the mantle of the Blitz Beast, and so did his grandfather. And what it is an Imperial metal suit developed by Nazi Germany that he stole during the war, and he fought with it during the war. And then they slowly started to realize that there were bigger conspiratorial powers behind the world, and they modified the suit, and they kept their legacy going to infiltrate the order and destroy them from the inside. So that
Okay.
we think that's going to be floppies. That's what we're looking at, is 24-page floppies, because we've never done floppies before, and really exploring some great ideas with that, especially ideas, because Apollyon 28 is all about the ideas that are happening in our world right now. Um,
Indeed.
yeah, religious, political upheaval, all the things we can't talk about on YouTube.
Indeed.
Yeah,
It's
and
it's
that's,
a, it's a quick path to getting
yeah,
shut down, isn't it?
yeah, but we like exploring ideas. This is, none of our stuff is preachy. None of our stuff
No.
is charged, but it is the creative space to pursue those ideas. And we had a, stop me if I need to, but we had a,
Subtlety, isn't it? Like Stanley said,
yeah,
our heroes should have feet of clay, and that what a creator believes or how they vote or whatever is buried deep in the foundations. And you ask questions of your reader and let them find the answers themselves. Instead of telling them what to think, they can find out how to think for themselves with the writer as a guide. Please
yeah.
continue.
Well, no, that's the thing is, I think I forget who it was. Maybe it was Tom. I think it was Tom Taylor posted a. It's another montage, or not montage. It's another homage of Captain America punching Hitler. Great. I love when Captain America punches Hitler, because Hitler sucks. But it was another character doing it. It's like, look, man, we get it. But can we explore the human heart and the human condition that is affected by these ideologies? Like in Napoleon, one of our main characters is a kid whose father was a neo-Nazi, and he grew up in that environment, and the kid rejected it. We have a like Ox, the blonde-haired girl. She was raised as being a soldier of the Soviet Union. We have a kid that was part of the Red Guard and turned his parents into them, and of course he regrets it now. And there's things like that, and there's some people who don't regret their actions, you know. But if you don't treat characters as humans, you get nothing. They're just mouthpieces for, and it's usually for beliefs that are not well thought out. And I want to know why something is bad. If something is bad, we should know why it's bad. And I guarantee you get to the heart of it, you realize, oh, it's way worse than we thought. like that's the thing, is,
It's
you know,
all down to the who, the what, and the why, isn't it? A why
exactly.
is you'll always get down to a more interesting story if you can ask why. So maybe some people don't like us humble mortals asking the questions why, but we should. And it's like that scene in The Matrix. Do you want to eat fake steak or do you want to eat the gruel of the real world? At least
Hmm.
from one place, you can start to have an authentic story, an authentic experience, and perhaps build and go forwards from there. You know, at least you'll have knowledge.
Well, no, I want to connect what you just said with what you said earlier, about infinite crisis and the consistent resets. At some point, I don't want to go on a tangent here. We adopted in the West a Gnostic mindset. The world's a prison. Everything's a prison. You can't get out. There is no transcendence. We're postmodern muck, and you can't get out of this self-imposed prison, or this demiurge imposed prison. And so you get the Ouroboros, as you described. You just go in circles. Everything goes in circles.
Well, it's short term, isn't it? If you can
Mm-hmm.
reset something every couple of years, basically you get generational profit. So you get short term boost. At what point that dilutes to the point where the entire thing collapses in its own weight? The snake eats its tail to the point where it chokes is another thing. Whereas a lot of people seem curious as to why manga is doing so well. To me, it's quite simple. They're patient and they have on the spine, you know, who's publishing it, who the author is, uh, what the first issue is, where you can start, basically, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that creator is synonymous with that work throughout that publishing history. So it's authentic. If you're the person that invented it, it's going to be authentic. If Disney try and create your book, you know what you're going to get. If you're creating it, Dan, we know what we're going to get. It's going to be a little bit more authentic, isn't it? You know,
Mm-hmm.
without going too far down that track. But
Well,
with
we even did that with the big two. People would say, "I want Claremont's X-Men. I want Burns' X-Men." We do that in our mind. That's why runs tend to sell better and sell more, or trades tend to sell better than floppies. I
Hmm.
want Frank Miller's Daredevil. What you just said is exactly right. Like and it wouldn't surprise me if that's what they went with, if they just got rid of floppies completely and just started putting out big trays or just republishing the ones that were successful before.
I think Scott McCloud of Understanding Comics put it like this. In the West, we emphasize getting there as opposed to the journey there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think manga are all about the journey. Yeah.
Hey, and people will even wait for manga. They'll wait like 2 or 3 years for the next volume to come out if the guy takes a break. We modern in the West, particular, it's now. It has to be out now. It has to be. People will, and that's a whole thing I can't get into. But I'm tired of the comics versus manga debate. Just make good art. It doesn't matter. Stop trying to analyze why manga succeeds. Why don't you? Those writers analyzed American comics for decades, and they analyzed their folklore and they analyzed ours. I think that especially younger people forget that. It's like America and the West and the UK, England used to be massive cultural forces that defined the world. Like, we have the stories. They're there.
Those people who don't know their history will be doomed to repeat it.
I'm literally a product of your nation. Like, my nation would not be here without the Magna Carta. You know what I mean? Like,
Magna Carta.
Rest in peace.
Well, yes. Yeah. Sometimes you have to go back to history to see what your rights are and what your freedoms truly are. Right then, we've got something else. Tell us about your comic book printer.
I think it starts with an M. Josh usually handles the printing. Let me see. It's
because there's Comic Book Wellspring, there's Mixum, there's a few out there.
Mixum. It is Mixum. We have been thoroughly, here, I'll show you. We have been thoroughly impressed with them. So this is Apollyon Volume 1.
Put this on big screen so we can see. Let me see if we can see this. Let me see where we are here.
All right.
1 second. Oh, just
no problem.
Just see. Need to be on. Let me see. Just remove that for the time being. There we go. So we can get it up on big screen. Yeah, looks very good. Keep going. Yes, we like. So going with black and white was very much a conscientious choice then. I like the cover.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we wanted that we wanted that gritty look for Apollyon. We definitely want, I mean, it's just, and Josh wanted to do black and white the way, so it didn't just look like he did inks and then filled in.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to actually do like black and white. And then there's Kolga, which is manga sized, and it's full color. But we did Mixum for both of these, and we were utterly impressed with how quick their turnaround was and the quality of their book.
We used Mixum for prototype, which classified information, but that's to say they will move time and space for you. They'll get it back to you within a week. If you're due for a convention, they'll take that bet to beat the deadline so they can get that book to you before a convention. So we've had good experience ourselves, but we know plenty of people have had good experiences with them. I mean, you can have a bad experience with any printer, something happens, people are human, but if you're happy, that is testimony itself, Dan.
Oh yeah, we're going to stay with them, and their prices were fantastic because they
very good in pricing, aren't they? Tell us about the pricing, please.
Pricing is great for us. I mean, I don't know if I were in the UK, but they're local. They print in America. We didn't have to get it shipped from China, which we just didn't want to do that for various reasons. Yeah, for a lot of reasons. But yeah, their pricing is great. They'd let us keep our prices lower. I mean, this is 100 pages full color. We sell it for $15. This is 185 pages black and white. We sell it at conventions and on our website for $25. But if you back it, if you do the catch-up tier, you get it for $20, and you get this for, I think, 10 maybe. We keep our prices lower for the catch-up tiers on our campaigns so that we don't devalue our books later. There's nothing worse than someone paying $25, $30 for a book that they get from you, and then they find it somewhere cheaper, not from you. that or you put it in a store for cheaper. We don't like
Yeah.
to devalue our books or our customers.
I think those are sage words. That way, you don't want your readers to feel cheated or resentful because it's around the corner, it's on the newsstand or in the sales somewhere. It's that striving to keep integrity part of the idea, the concept, the premise, the writing, the artwork, the actual package you take, which printer you choose, the distribution model you choose, the retail experience in terms of how much this is going to cost, what is shipping. There's a lot of plates spinning there, to try and create, happy creator creating his stuff, but a creator also wants happy readers. Have you had much feedback from your readership on your comic and what they think about your indie comic and about what you two are creating?
Oh yeah, we for the first 2 volume ones we did pre reviews. We sent out the digital versions as soon as it was done and got several reviews. They're on YouTube. We've got nothing but positive reviews. Now for Kolga, we did get 1 or 2 reviews where people were like, I think maybe there should be like a setup on the first page or something that explains the story a little bit, like basically just sets the universe. So after we got that feedback from 2 or 3 reviewers, and that was about the
lore,
only
canon.
Exactly. So that's what we did. Okay, well, with the
so it grounds the reader in terms of where this is coming from. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So and this one takes place 1,000 years after Apollyon, so it needed that, and so we added it. I was like, okay, well, if people say, hey, I loved it, I thought it was a good book, but I wish there was some kind of grounding here at the beginning, well, then let's do it. If we had gotten negative feedback from either of our books, we would take it into account.
That's interesting. So you're not, you haven't got that sense of, right, it's my way, the highway. You actually, in a sense, understand what the reader's concerns are, and you think, actually, I can work with them to actually make our product even better. So they'll be a happier customer.
Oh yeah, and there's different things. If someone had a problem with the story in general, like I think there is artistic integrity, but if it's a valid thing of something as simple as, hey, how about 2 paragraphs just to establish the world a little bit more, because especially since the reviewers who read Kolga hadn't read Apollyon.
Yeah.
And that's our whole thing. We want to make our eras and our books, you can jump in anywhere and get a full story and enjoy it, or you can get the entire universe and it all connects together. What we don't want is to recreate the problems of the big 2 where I don't know where to start, don't know where to jump in,
So again, indie comics have this opportunity to create connection.
Oh yeah.
And coherence, as opposed to a short-term cash cow approach. Yeah.
There's a lot of that, but yeah, unfortunately. But yeah, it's a time. Just make good things for people. Just, I think you put it perfectly with integrity. You may disagree with us. That's fine. Everybody disagrees with everybody, especially in the age of the internet. I think that's the next big hurdle, is pushing past the Twitter sphere and being so having so much integrity that even if someone dislikes you, they like your work, or they may respect you. And those are 2 different things. Like and respect are 2 different things. There's tons of people I like. There's friends that I have who I may not like half the time, but I respect them. And I think if you do something consistently good, it speaks for itself. And we're talking transcendental philosophy here. And I'm a religious person. I believe in that. But I think it's the only answer. Maybe not religion for people, but some kind of transcendental moral has to exist, because we are living in the world without it. And everybody thinks it sucks.
Yes, life is suffering. I think, what do we actually put on our latest 5 Pillars of Storytelling promo? I think it's from Princess, is it Monocone? We're
Nice.
not only familiar with her. The word, I do remember it back in the day, but only vaguely. And the reason why we're actually putting manga on our indie comic promos at the minute is to actually, be students of manga and try and learn about another culture and how they approach storytelling. Obviously, we've read what Scott McCloud thinks of that, and we've got things like Bakuman, which for us is our favorite manga. We've got all 1 to 20 of it, and it's about, funny enough, a writer and an artist trying to make their way in the world, and we think it's fantastic. And then obviously we've got the first issue of the other work. is it Death Note?
Yeah.
And then
Oh, Death Note is fantastic. It's Shakespearean. I love
yeah,
it.
it's got that Shakespearean vibe, hasn't it? You know what I mean? And you think, how did it's the same creators create two
I
different
think so.
books?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And but that just shows you, if
Hmm.
you're the one that's making it, you can have Biophile and Apollyon 20XX, yeah,
Yeah.
and they can be an entity unto itself, but also part of a bigger picture. So you can enjoy the one, but also enjoy the whole. We like that. It's very holistic, Dan. We have been
Oh,
listening to.
I would love to talk with you. I can do a 3 or 4 hour talk on the idea of holistic. I think that's a major problem with our world. I think we have atomized everything, and I think we've separated the mind from the body, and the body from the soul, and the body from the mind. And it. I don't think people are supposed to live this way.
And the quote we were going to quote from our X page to actually build on that. How's this for Sedgway, folks? The divine itself, orchestration. The world is cursed, but still you find reasons to keep living.
Nice.
Osa. So then, right, our last final question of our bonus round. And our bonus time is, let's find him. I can't take credit for this. This came from a Nottingham Forest football podcast. We call soccer football in these parts, just letting you know in advance. No American rugby here, it's football. And on the podcast, yes, all the guests halfway through, but I'm doing it near the end. What is your favorite pizza? Most people say margarita, allegedly, and we tried that with extra cheese. I thought, yeah, I could get into that. What about Dan, reader, writer, and historian, and
I am
comic creator, no less?
I am such an American man. I gotta go with like meat lovers. Just throw it all on there. I want pepperoni. I want sausage. I want beef and bacon. As many arteries as you can clog at once. Throw it on there.
You're Mr. Meat Feast, man. Dan's a
Oh,
meat feast guy.
we've got stuffed crust here. We have pizza buffets here, man. Like it's amazing.
No, I don't want to create a creative dispute between you and your artist co-creator, but do you share that pizza or is it one each?
Oh, it's probably one each. He's a big boy.
Yeah, I'm 6 foot in spiritual stature. I just lost out on those extra couple of inches to take me to the baseline 6 foot. But hey, man, you can't have it all.
My wife told me she loved me because I'm tall and funny. And
Tall and funny.
That's it.
I would say, hang on to her. She sounds like a good one.
She is. And speaking of pizza, she comes from an Italian lineage, and you can tell.
Does she? How interesting. Yeah. Go on.
Well, she's very loud.
All right. Is that when you don't behave yourself?
That's just in general.
Just in general, I see.
I never miss what she's saying.
No, I'm sure there's a lot of respect there.
Oh yeah, we've been married 11 years. We have 2 beautiful children, 4 and 1.5, boy and a girl. Couldn't be happier. Well, I mean, I could be. I could not have to work. That'd be nice, but.
Well, that's the next step, isn't it, to make a success of your indie comic? And do you have any merch with Apollyon X and the Godfoe Universe? Have you looked into it much? I don't know, t-shirts, mugs.
We have not. The first thing, well, we had posters that we do for campaigns. Like sometimes we usually do like free posters we send to people. We've done stickers before. They're kind of chibi little kid stickers for people. We've done coloring pages. Josh will draw our characters and let kids color them, and we'll print them up. I think the first thing.
Gone?
Oh, I mean, that's great. If you're at a convention, you hand out the page to the kid as they walk by, and their parents come back, and that you get to talk about it. People who pick up our book and look through it buy it. We sell much more at conventions than we do online, and to us, that's a pretty good point. I think the first thing we'd like to do seriously with merch is figures. We would love to do figurines.
Figurines, that's the holy grail, isn't it? The ultimate. Somebody who cruelly once said they were dust collectors, but I took slight issue with that, of course, being a comics fan. I said it's almost a pinnacle, a statue of your IP. It's just ultimate and cool, isn't it? I mean, we played World of Warcraft in the past, and Lady Sylvanas is the Lady Superior, supremo there. And I tell you what, I think Blizzard did a statuette, a marquette, a statue of her, and I think it's perhaps, I don't know, 16 inches tall, and it just looks
nice.
magnificent. She's in full Wind Rider mode, you know what I mean? Hair's flowing,
Yep.
and she's standing atop this kind of like rocky ledge or plinth, and I'm thinking, £500. You start getting twitching, thinking, I could do that. I could go without
Yeah.
food for a month, and
Yep.
yeah, I could do that statue.
Oh, I've got them over here, up top. I do Warhammer. I've
Yeah.
got some. Oh yeah. I bought Black Templars, 2,000 points. I'm only 4 boxes away from building all of them, but I have the entire army, and I've got buddies that play. And I've got the codex and everything, and I mean I know that's from y'all's side of the pond. I love Warhammer.
I see. A Warhammer fan, yes. I mean, back in the day, it was Games Workshop, White Dwarf the magazine. A friend of ours had little metal miniatures, and yeah, they did a bit of role playing and all that business. You know what I mean? So we often make the point, well, occasionally at the Fine Pillars of Storytelling, that everything's connected, because
Yep.
at the end of the day, what we are is storytellers. We're creators who tell stories, and sometimes that's like a Bruce Lee quote, isn't it? Be like water. You know,
Oh yeah.
it can take any vessel, the shape of any vessel, and sometimes whether it's comics or a market or a statue or a movie, what's a movie? It's just a multi-paneled comic in situ. You know, it's just playing around with time and space storytelling. You know.
Oh yeah,
So,
and I think if you're not, I don't know, I think especially with the advent of AI, we're reaching a point where we're going to be forced to either call ourselves meat bags, or admit that there's something transcendental and connective about humans. Because if we're just meat machines, then AI is a better human already. Like, is art transcendental? Does it come from the human, or is it the cynical, oh, it's just an amalgamation of things from before? That's the question.
Well, defiantly, being the petulant human being that I am, we are here. We would say that it's we're the real deal, and they're just fast copiers.
I think so, because if you follow that logic of we're just copiers, it's like, well, then who were these first humans? Were they such godlike beings that they could create, but no one after them can? Like,
Those
where's the origin?
historical temple doors look very, 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 very tall to us.
Yeah, right.
The size of those, those brick walls that got built by wood rollers, allegedly. You think, maybe if I was a bigger guy, I could actually pick up on those bricks, and maybe that's a clue to our past, that all these world mythologies and religions.
You will like Apollyon, because we go into a lot of conspiracy and a lot of old world talk.
Hey guys, we have loved speaking to Dan. He's our kind of guy. He's been slowly building his dark temporal bridge to our cortex over this last hour or so. We're going to call it half an hour, but we think it's probably a little bit more than that. But we're glad of it, because we got to speak to a writer, well, more than that, a reader, a writer, historian, and a great family man who has got a lot going for him and is infusing it into his indie comic. And that's what we have the chance to do, to step away from the cookie cutter corporate model and actually infuse our life and everything that goes with it into a product that we can share as creators, creating it together, but also we can share it with our audience. And you see people like Dan is artist getting out there, but also people like Paul Thayer of Project Neosis. What does he show pictures of when he replies to our promo stream? Happy customers holding his product. Black Sun Comics, Kelvin Morosi, he takes pictures on his website of happy people holding his comic. That's the best kind of word of mouth advertising, pressing the flesh at conventions, meeting real people out in the real world.
I agree.
Right then, we would like to say thank you for being a guest, and a very good luck with your project, and keep us updated with your progress. We are more inclined to back your book than ever, and feel that we know you more, your product, and who you are and where you come from. And anybody who watches the stream now, but due to the temporal nature of streaming on YouTube. People, anybody who catches up with us in the future of now, will understand where you come, who you are, what you do, why you do what you do, what advice you give to other creators, and your impassioned plea to read more, write more, create more, to be a visual storyteller. Find out, if you can't draw, find somebody who can, and try and seek out somebody in real comic convention settings who you connect with. And that's what the whole beauty of indie comics. It's not just about the sale. It's not just about the kill. It's about connecting with other people and that level of interconnected authenticity, because a rising tide lifts all boats.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
God bless you, Dan. You do make sure you listen to your wife and have some more fun with your kids. It sounds like you've got a great home there, and you take care, buddy. And you know what? We enjoyed that conversation so much. We'd like you back in the future to tell us about your progress. Is that all right to come back in the future, baby?
Sure, sounds wonderful. We'll be launching Kolga 2 probably end of summer, and we've got Apollyon 3 coming out in the winter.
Right. Well, it looks like we've got something to look forward to in the future to talk again. Until we meet next time, Dan, God bless you and Godspeed. Here's to Western civilization creativity. And what's that word? History.
Have a good day.
You take care, brother.
Bye.
See you soon. Bye-bye.